Oh, hi there. Another night, another film, another car. Yes, really. I'm in a courtesy car, a different courtesy car. Not going to get into the car saga now because this is a film review, not a life review, not a breakdown like I was having in my last video. This is about me going to the cinema and watching something and then sitting in a car and talking about it. And which car it is, largely irrelevant. So here we go. Tonight's film was Joker. This film falls squarely into the category of you cannot have missed this being advertised unless you've been living in a cave on Mars with your fingers in your ears. So you're going to be aware of this. And you might know a lot about it or you might know next to nothing about it. You might think, oh, it's another comic book film. I've seen enough of them, or they're not my bag. The only way that this is a comic book film is that it's based around a character who exists in the comic book world. But if your idea of a comic book film is the MCU stuff, the Marvel output, this is about as far away from any of those as you can get. I mean, really, if I'm honest, it's even a world away from Christopher Nolan's comic book films, the Batman, the Dark Knight stuff, which were very dark and gritty and real to a certain extent. I mean, not real, but do you know what I mean? They're not fantastical in the same way, again, that the Marvel stuff is, but this was so different to anything I've seen that you can quantify as a comic book film. I realise I'm not being particularly articulate, but that's because it was quite an experience watching this film. And I'd read a few reviews before I went in. One on the BBC News app today. I may or may not have read the Empire one, I'm not sure. So I was expecting it to be a slow burn, and I was expecting it to be violent and dark and different. And it was all of those things. It's divided critics to a certain extent, where some people are like absolutely raving about it, and there's a handful of prominent critics who are going, no, doesn't work. It worked very well for me. I can't get my words out, and this isn't like me. It was astonishing. It was very uncomfortable. It was very much a slow burn. And when it is violent, good God, it's very violent. And I'll admit to turning my head away at one point, and I don't think of myself as being particularly squeamish when it comes to screen violence, but my God, I really did have to look away. Interestingly, I talked about Ready or Not and its 18th certificate and how gory it is, but how the gore is balanced out with black humour. There is no comedy to balance out the violence in this film. When it's violent, it's just violent. I mean, it's part of the plot, absolutely, but it is quite unrelenting, and it carries a 15th certificate, which I find odd. In case you're not familiar with the story, or the story as it's being told this time around, we are following a character called Arthur Fleck, played by the, quite frankly, ridiculously talented Joaquin Phoenix. And he's a pathetic character. I think that's the only way to describe him. He is lonely, he's odd, he's ostracised, he's got this condition whereby he can't help but laugh uncontrollably when he feels upset or awkward. It's like an inappropriate emotional response to stress, and he laughs, but there's no humour, no warmth, no nothing. It is a cold and painful sound, and it makes him uncomfortable, it makes everyone around him uncomfortable. I mean, there's so little vanity in the way that he plays this role. He's gone all the way in, and he makes Arthur and Joker just, you do actually feel sorry for him / them. I think what's interesting about this is, for me, it's the first time you're seeing a Joker film, which isn't a Batman film. I haven't seen Suicide Squad. Not my vibe. So I can't comment on that. But this, for me, is obviously, the film is called Joker. The film is about Joker, how that monster is made, the part that society and Gotham City play in making this murderous clown. But because you're so close to him, it's hard not to feel sorry for him at times, and you are kind of on his side, and the city's in ruins, and there's real unrest, and I don't know, as much as you can argue that Batman's a vigilante and it's not his place to go out and kill bad guys. Oh no, Batman doesn't kill people, but to go out and sort of solve crimes and, do the police's job, there's kind of an argument that some of the crimes that Joker commits and some of the murders he commits, maybe they were justified, and because, as I say, you're seeing it from his point of view, it kind of puts you on his side, which is a very strange and uncomfortable place to be. It's written and directed by Todd Phillips. He's probably best known for the Hangover films, so he's not the most obvious choice, but it's a really stylish film. A lot of critics have mentioned the similarities or the debt it owes to Taxi Driver, which I think is fair. Robert De Niro is in this film as a talk show host, and he's very, very good. Yeah, it's a hell of a piece of work, and anybody going expecting, not so much Marvel stuff, but anybody expecting a Christopher Nolan type version of Gotham City and Joker, you're getting something way darker and way more grown up and way more terrifying than that. I mean, not to take anything away from Heath Ledger, because his performance as Joker in The Dark Knight is something that I think is widely regarded as one of the best performances, one of the best incarnations of the character ever. But having seen this Joker and Joaquin Phoenix in the role, I'm kind of thinking, I'd invite Heath Ledger's Joker to be entertainment at a kid's party, because he is almost, I want to say, nowhere near as monstrous as this version. But this version is also more well-rounded and tragic and sad, because we get to see him become Joker, whereas ordinarily we just meet Joker and he's Batman's nemesis. I suppose in Batman, in Tim Burton's Batman from 1989, we see Jack Nicholson's character, Jack Napier, become Joker. But this is next level. This is a man breaking down, falling apart, and you get the impression, I mean, he was never that well held together in the first place, but you are literally seeing this man unravel and then become something else. And it's like Arthur Fleck dies, nobody cares, but Joker is born out of that. Don't see it if you don't like violence. Don't see it if you like big, flashy comic book movies. But if you want to see a very dark, intense, gritty, I have to say violent again. If you want all of that, if you're prepared to sit through the slow burn for the stunning climax, then check it out. But everyone's going to say Oscar nomination. Everyone's going to say award worthy. Joaquin Phoenix's performance in this film is something else. I mean, wow. I'm going to go now, because I've been talking for nearly 10 minutes and I think this is one of my least articulate reviews. It's merely because I can't quite string together how I feel about the film. So go and see it for yourself. If you've liked my review, give it a like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Thank you for listening. Katie out.